Hey everybody, it's Dave here from Dragonhill Games, and welcome to our weekly segment, This Week in MTG Finance. Sorry I'm a little bit late getting this one out this morning, but as you can imagine, it was a really busy weekend in the store with the Throne of Eldraine pre-release. Speaking of which, I hope everybody had a fantastic pre-release weekend and you did really well in your tournaments. Alright, well, let's jump right into it. As you can imagine, all the focus is on Throne of Eldraine at the moment, and there's not a whole lot of movement in other areas in the market because of all the excitement around Throne of Eldraine. I will say history has shown us, as with every set that gets released, prices are generally inflated in especially the first couple weeks of a new set drop. And Throne of Eldraine is definitely no different. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. There's going to be some cards in this set that go up from where they are now, but the majority of the cards are going to drop in value over the course of the next few weeks as more and more cards from the set get opened, as people playtest with them and realize which cards are good, which cards are not good. So for me, at these generally inflated prices, I'm a seller for most cards in the set. That said, there's a few cards I'd like to go over today that I'm actually holding to see kind of what happens with them, and a couple that I'm actually picking up in as many quantities as I can get, some sleepers in the set. So let's start with Robber of the Rich. This is one I'm definitely holding to see what happens. This card has big potential to go north or south from here. I mean, it's sitting at around $10. But the general chatter in my store and even on the internet is that this card has potential to be played in Modern Humans. I mean, he's a pretty good deal. 2 mana, we get a 2/2 human creature with reach and haste. And whenever Robber of the Rich attacks, if defending player has more cards in their hand than you, exile the top card of their library. During any turn you attacked with a rogue, and of course he's a rogue, you may cast that card, and you may spend mana as though it were a mana of any color to cast that spell. So big potential here in Modern, and just, a 2/2 reach haste creature for 2 is generally a good card. Fits well in Humans, so this card does have the potential, especially at Mythic rarity. There's not going to be a ton of copies out there. This card definitely has the potential to do things, and go north from here. But like I said, if it gets tested out in Humans and just seems to be a little underwhelming, this card could be $3-4. So it's definitely one that I have my eye on. I'm holding copies. I'm not buying really or selling copies of this at the moment. I just want to see kind of where it goes. If you caught my video from last week, I did mention Once Upon a Time and Murderous Rider, and for both of those, I'm still in the position where I was last week with those. I'm in a wait-and-see kind of mode with those cards as well. I think that, Murderous Rider is going to be sort of the go-to removal in black, in Standard especially, and Once Upon a Time does have some modern potential, especially in decks like Druid Vizier and Mono Green Devotion, decks along those lines. So both those cards are still on the hold list for me. But another one I'd like to definitely have a look at is Brazen Borrower Petty Theft. I think this card, and if you have a look at a lot of other cards in Throne of Eldraine, the graph's kind of going like this. It's, starts out way up here. This card's awesome, and then after a week we realize that it's not so awesome, and it's, a third of its value. But Brazen Borrower is kind of hanging in there. I mean, it came out initially at around $25, but we're still hanging in there around the $18 mark, and I think this is definitely a reasonable price for this card. It has potential to be played in Modern, as a substitute or a sub-in, or alongside Vendilion Cliques. It's got a very similar type effects, and many decks may find the adventure part more worthwhile than the benefits you gain from Vendilion Clique. So again, at Mythic rarity, there's not going to be crazy tons of these cards out there. I think that this is a reasonable price. I'd probably even be picking them up at this price. I think this card has reasonably good long-term potential. So I'm definitely in a hold slash acquire mode with this card, and I think it's even going to get standard play. I mean, it's just a good card, right? So definitely one to also keep your eye on from this set. And sticking in the Throne of Eldraine theme, I want to show you guys the card that I think is the biggest sleeper in this set, and that is Mirror Maid. I mean, come on. For 3 mana, we're getting an enchantment that you may have Mirror Maid enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or enchantment on the battlefield. At $2.25, I would literally buy 2,000 of these if I could find them all. And here is why. So there's an outside chance this card could end up getting used in Standard or, even Modern as some part of some sort of combo. Granted, those are long shots. But there's this little game that a lot of people play called, Commander. Let's compare this to a couple of cards that are currently widely used in Commander. So Copy Artifact is widely used in Commander, currently carries a price tag of nearly $30, and a lot of that has to do with availability. I mean, it hasn't had a printing since Revised Edition. But this card only does half of what Mirror Maid does. Yes, it only costs 2 mana instead of 3, but I think most Commander players will be happy to play an additional blue to give them the option to both copy an artifact and an enchantment. Speaking of copying enchantments, Copy Enchantment is a phenomenal card in the right decks. I use it in my Zerstax deck, and it's one of my go-to cards. But it's just strictly worse than Mirror Maid. I mean, it's the same CMC. Yes, it's 1 blue and 2, and Mirror Maid is 2 blue and 1, but 99 times out of 100, that doesn't matter. We're still talking about a 3 CMC. And this card only does half of what Mirror Maid does. Every day of the week, I will play Mirror Maid instead of Copy Enchantment because I want the ability to have, the other mode on the card to be able to copy an artifact for the exact same CMC. Don't get me wrong, this isn't coming out of my deck, but Mirror Maid will definitely be a go-to in most cases over Copy Enchantment. And Copy Enchantment carries a price tag of, north of $11. That's because it's a good card. So to have Mirror Maid sitting at around $2, and it'll probably even go down from here. I mean, as more and more of the set gets open, if this card doesn't see any sort of play in Standard, it's likely going to go down. Might be a $1 card. In that case, go nuts. Pick up lots of copies. I mean, at some point, everybody's going to realize this is an awesome card in Commander. And that won't be until a year or 2 from now, until the set dries up and nobody's opening Throne of Eldraine anymore. So at that point, investing in Magic cards is about seeing the future, at least trying to see the future in the best way that we can. And if, like I said, if we compare these cards to other cards that are getting played in Commander, like Copy Artifact, Copy Enchantment, it's just better than both of those. So it being, $15 2 years from now wouldn't shock me in the slightest. I'm buying these as many as I can get. So let's talk about some cards outside of Throne of Eldraine. A few of the cards I've been really trumpeting the last few weeks, a month, have been the good ley lines that got reprinted in Core Set 2020, specifically Leyline of the Void, Leyline of Anticipation, and Leyline of Sanctity. These are all good buys right now, and I would recommend picking up any of them as a long-term investment, particularly Leyline of the Void, since the Hogak ban's starting to go down a little bit. But, I mean, this card was $60, $70 before the reprint, so picking them up at around the $12 mark is a good, solid, long-term investment. And the next card I have for you guys today under the investment category is Rest in Peace, specifically the Signature Spellbook Gideon edition. This card has bottomed out over the last few months in the $5.50 to $6 range, currently sitting at an all-time low of $5.50. It's an alternate printing, and so there's always collectors that like to get their hands on alternate artwork of the card. It had a couple other printings, namely the original printing in Return to Ravnica, and then a fairly recent printing in Masters 25. So between the Masters 25 version and the Signature Spellbook Gideon version, I think there's an extremely low chance that this card would be reprinted in any future set anytime soon. I mean, of course, someday it may get reprinted, but I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. So it's a perennial card used in both Modern and Commander, and I really only do see potential upside for this card from here. And the last card on our list for today is Phyrexian Tower. This card, as far as I'm concerned, is an excellent investment. There's a massive gap between this version and the original Urza Saga printing version. I mean, nearly a $10 gap. This card is a staple in Commander as a sack outlet, and at $10.20. I mean, it debuted at $46. Masters 25 put a good quantity of them into the market, so it'll take a little while for that quantity to basically be absorbed into various people's collections. But at some point, probably within the next few years, this card's going to be, 2 or 3 times the value of what it is now, barring a reprint, which seems unlikely because, again, the Ultimate Masters version was relatively recently, and it's not a card that needs to be reprinted, sort of over and over again kind of thing. But it is a card that is definitely used in Commander and has a lot of potential upside from here. All right, I really hope you guys enjoyed our weekly investment video for September 30. If you did, smash that like button and consider hitting subscribe. And why don't you let me know in the comment section below what you guys think is a good investment this week. All right, we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.